Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 13th of July 2015. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Nintendo President Satoru Iwata has passed away. Warner Bros. Interactive has published a statement on the current state of Arkham Knight on PC, and Ubisoft's 2015 financials reveal some interesting data. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. The president of Nintendo Japan, Satoru Iwata, has passed away at the age of 55. Nintendo of Japan has issued a short statement saying that Nintendo Co. Limited deeply regrets to announce that President Satoru Iwata passed away on July the 11th, 2015 due to a bile duct growth. Born in 1959, Satoru Iwata had a significant early impact on the software on Nintendo systems, including contributions to Balloon Fight, Kirby, and Earthbound. He was appointed director in the year 2000 and then promoted to president and representative director in 2002. In 2013, he was appointed as the CEO of Nintendo America. He is also credited with significant contributions to The Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Mario series. Mr. Iwata had previously shown signs of poor health, and he was not in attendance at E3 2014 as the result of surgery on his bile duct to remove a tumor. Unfortunately, it would appear that this was not successful, and the condition ended up being fatal. The impact that this will have on an already embattled Nintendo as yet remains unknown, and I would like to express my condolences to his colleagues and family for their loss. After removing the game from sale shortly after release, Warner Bros. Has been keeping us updated on the progress of what looks to be a long-term operation to fix the PC version of Arkham Knight. The latest statement from the company indicates that the Matter of Family DLC, which features Batgirl, will not be available on the release date of July the 14th for the PC platform. They also claim that addressing the PC performance issues is still their top priority, and they believe that they have identified a number of fixes for the larger issues that were affecting PC players at launch. They also claim that as a result of this latest launch, they are modifying the internal review process for all of their games. Finally, they said that once the PC version is fully updated and rock steady and all parties agree that it meets a superior quality bar, they'll release the game for sale once again. So that's a bit of a 1-2 punch of disappointment for a lot of people. I think that those that are actually fortunate enough to be running the game properly or are merely just playing through the issues, perhaps they can tolerate the 30 frames per second lock and so on and so forth, will of course be disappointed to know that the Batgirl DLC is not going to be available for them at the same time as everybody else, which is yet another kick in the teeth for an already rather riled PC consumer base, and you can hardly blame them for that. The other thing which I think merits a certain degree of skepticism is the claim that they are modifying the internal review process for all of their games as a result of this latest launch. Now, this sounds reasonable at first glance until you remember that Warner Bros. Was also the publisher of games like Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 10, Lego Jurassic World, Batman Arkham Origins, Batman Arkham City, and of course dregs such as Watchmen The End Is Nigh. Now, all of the games that I just previously listed also had major problems at launch, including, yes, Arkham City, which many people like to forget, had a series of performance problems in DirectX 11 mode. Not only that, but it also had a wee little bug, just a little one, that would delete your save files. Not exactly a good thing. Don't get me started on, of course, the netcode and frequent problems that we have with the Mortal Kombat games. And needless to say, what did they do? They farmed out the port to a company that was clearly not equipped to do it. Either that or simply did not have the time to properly execute the port. The Mortal Kombat games were farmed out to High Voltage, who have a fairly poor history of porting, and of course Iron Galaxy was responsible for Batman Arkham Knight, and if rumors are to be believed, of course, did so with limited time and a very small staff pool. Essentially what I'm saying at this point is this internal review should have occurred way before this. It should have occurred during the Arkham Origins era, but it didn't. All we actually got was a statement that said, no, we're not going to fix the rest of the bugs because we're too busy working on DLC. It should have occurred when Mortal Kombat 10 came out. Hell, it should have occurred when Mortal Kombat 9 came out. That had plenty of problems, but Mortal Kombat 10 was somehow even worse, despite the fact that we've already had one poor Mortal Kombat port to PC. Mortal Kombat 10 is, quite frankly, still nigh on unplayable on PC. It's a mess, the netcode is a goddamn disaster. Don't get me started on the performance problems that game also has on multiple setups. People were not too pleased to see large frame drops happening all over the place. That's the exact opposite of what you want in a fighting game. The fact of the matter is, Warner Brothers has a checkered history when it comes to PC versions, and I think that people like to forget that because they either played the Batman games much later on in their life cycle, or they had the pleasure of playing Shadow of Mordor, which was a fantastic port, but we should bear in mind who was responsible for that port. Yes, it was the actual original developer, Monolith. You should know Monolith, maybe you don't. Let me clue you in. Monolith Productions, the developers of such PC classics as Blood, Shogo Mobile Armor Division, Blood 2, No One Lives Forever, No One Lives Forever 2, Alien vs Predator 2, Tron 2, Fear, Condemned Criminal Origins. Are you getting the idea? Yes, they are actually not too bad at all when it comes to PC game development. They have a very lengthy history of doing so, so no wonder they didn't screw it up. The only credit that Warner Brothers, the publisher, deserves for that is actually allowing the original developer to work on the PC version, as opposed to farming it out to someone like, say, High Voltage. Would you like to know what incredible games High Voltage has been responsible for? No, you wouldn't. I'm going to inflict it on you anyway, though. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for Wii and Nintendo DS. Ben 10 Protector of Earth for PlayStation 2, PSP, and Wii. Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, PlayStation 2, Wii, and PSP. The Family Guy video game. Captain America Super Soldier, Nicktoons MLB. VIP Casino Blackjack, Go Diego Go Safari Rescue. America's Army True Soldiers. Oh, the list goes on and on and on and on. But hey, at least they were the geniuses behind White Men Can't Jump on the Atari Jaguar. Yeah, not exactly the best history, I'm afraid. The fact of the matter is, it's the publisher who assigns the studio to actually do the ports. That's their responsibility. What that means is, when they give it to somebody that clearly isn't up to the job, then they are partially responsible for that. Which means, of course, that Warner Brothers is most assuredly responsible for the various problems that we've had with PC versions of their games over the past few years. The fact that this internal review is happening is welcome. The fact that it didn't happen several years ago indicates just how little Warner Brothers actually cared. One has to wonder if this high-profile drubbing that they received at the hands of the PC version of Arkham Knight finally pushed them to the point where they started taking PC seriously. And they probably should, because PC continues to be a growing platform, as you're about to find out in the next section of this show. And there is also now a robust refund policy in place to ensure that consumers do not get screwed over by this unprofessional behavior anymore. If Steam refunds are even in some tiny way responsible for all of this, then great. Fantastic. We should be very, very happy about that. And finally, Ubisoft's quarterly financial information has been released, which is a bit of good and a bit of bad news there for the company. While they managed to exceed the company's revenue target of 80 million euros, it was a little bit of a decline from last year, where they actually generated 360 million euros. This is for the most part attributed to the success of Watch Dogs. However, it is not all doom and gloom. Digital revenue for the company has more than doubled. 56% of total sales for Ubisoft are now in the digital format, as opposed to 23% in 2014's financial year. Surprisingly for many, perhaps, is that PC is in fact in second place when it comes to platform revenue, only 4% behind PlayStation 4. PC revenue at the same time last year was actually only 14% of total revenue for Ubisoft. This puts PC significantly ahead of PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, which make up only around 11% of revenue for the company. Ubisoft is projecting at least 200 million euros of revenue over the financial year, driven by forthcoming releases such as Rainbow Six Siege, For Honor, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, The Division, and the latest in the Ghost Recon series. Well, I have to admit this is a little bit surprising, considering that Ubisoft took an absolute hammering last year with the terrible release of Assassin's Creed Unity on PC. They have certainly made efforts to resolve this, and the current version does run a lot better than it did on launch, but it is still a little bit of a mess. The Crew also didn't do too well either in terms of its critical reception, and one has to wonder how short PC gamers' memories actually are when it comes, of course, to Watch Dogs, which had a noticeable visual downgrade and performance problems on many systems as well. Regardless, it seems like they've done pretty well. They're attributing a lot of it to an increase in back catalog sales and the success of Far Cry 4, which, needless to say, did pretty damn well on PC, unsurprisingly. The third-party sales predictor Steam Spy indicates that Far Cry 4 has sold about 500,000 copies on Steam, bearing in mind, of course, it's also available for purchase directly from the Uplay store. By comparison, The Crew has shifted about 200,000 units on Steam, and Watch Dogs just over 500,000. It should be noted, of course, that this report is the financial quarter 1 report, which for Ubisoft would be April through to June of 2015. That is a fairly impressive long tail when you think about it. The last major game that they released was in December of 2014. That was The Crew. Before that, you had Far Cry 4 in November of 2014. As of July on PC in 2015, Ubisoft has not released a single major title, unless, of course, you count Assassin's Creed Rogue. Bearing in mind that Rogue was actually released in 2014 on consoles, and on Steam, according to Steam Spy, has shifted a measly 50,000 units, it really does come down to the strength of the back catalog. They're generating a hell of a lot of revenue on games that are 6 months or more older on PC, and they continue to sell at a steady rate. More so, indeed, than the Xbox One, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. That's pretty damn impressive. And one would hope that that would mean that Ubisoft will start to take a look at those numbers and say, maybe we should be treating PC a little bit more seriously. Now, the last few releases they've had on PC have not been incredible, though you can look at some of the minor titles and say that, yeah, these do seem to be running fine. Things like Grow Home ran absolutely fine. Things like Assassin's Creed Chronicles China were not exactly incredible PC ports, but they ran well enough for a 2D side-scroller. But major releases like Far Cry 4 weren't particularly incredible at launch. They suffered from major hitching and stuttering issues on multiple configurations. The Crew wasn't exactly brilliant, but it wasn't terrible. It's kind of hard to say that they're getting better, but at least they're not being overly draconian. It was only a few years ago, of course, that crippling DRM was introduced in multiple games, which caused an absolute riot from PC gamers. Tega's DRM for titles like Anno 2070, restrictive Uplay DRM for Settlers Path to a Kingdom, and then of course the even worse example of Assassin's Creed 2, which would quite literally suspend your game if you lost connection to the internet. I suppose, comparably speaking, Ubisoft has improved significantly since those days, but back in those days it was frankly the most evil company on PC bar none. I mean, it was making EA look practically saintly by comparison. So here's hoping that money talks when it comes to Ubisoft. This company that, of course, had blasted the PC platform in the past for rampant piracy is apparently enjoying significant back catalog sales from the PC platform, which are eclipsing those of the Xbox One. So it does seem to me that you might want to take it just that little bit more seriously now. Please. Alright folks, that wraps me up for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch, but before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. It seems only fitting to go out with a tribute to Satoru Iwata, and I'd like to play the only OC Remix from his game Balloon Fight, released in 1985 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. The original composer for this is Hirokazu Tanaka, and the remixer is Jake Kaufman. He is perhaps better known for his absolutely phenomenal soundtrack for Shovel Knight, but he's also an OC Remix contributor, and back in 2001, he released the only remix for Balloon Fight by the name of Scar Poppin, which is a remix of Balloon Trip and the Game Start theme from the 1985 NES classic. You can download it for free in the description below this video, and I'll see you next time.